Do you live in areas that experience very cold winters? Worms slow down when the time is cold. Would you like to learn some of the things that you can do to winterize your worms? If so, stay tuned. Hello, welcome to White Davy Gardening and Worm Farm. If you like my channel, please subscribe. So I'm going to be sharing with you 5 ways that you can help to winterize your worms. So the first one, where possible, relocate them to somewhere that is warmer. So as you can see here, I am in my office at this moment where I have my worm bins set up. I have majority of my worms outdoors in the garage, but then my garage do get cold in the winter even though it is heated, because the heat blows from above and not from the ground up. So therefore the lower region of my garage tend to be cold. So if you have been following along in my last 2 videos on this worm shelf that I built in here, then you'd realize that one of the steps that I've taken to ensure that my worm production keeps going, because those in the garage are going to slow down, then I've brought these indoors and I'm starting breeding bins with these. So again, if you are able to bring your worms to a different location where it is much warmer. Now, the second thing that you can do to ensure that your worms stay warm is to put a thick blanket over them. And if you have an insulated blanket, you may put that, or an insulated tarp, you can put that over the bin, as long as it is not restricting airflow from getting to the bin. The worms don't mind being in the darkness. In fact, worms love the darkness, so they are quite happy when you put the blanket over them to be warm and to be in the dark. That will help them to keep on producing during these cold months. So the third thing that you can do if your worms are cold is to add extra bedding. The more material there is in the bed, the more insulated the worm bin is going to be, and so that will provide them with more warmth. And the fourth thing that you can do to winterize your worm bin is to feed them food that is going to encourage the bin to heat up. So what you want to do is to put the type of food that will produce heat, for example, cooked rice or worm chow, or give a large feeding of nitrogen-rich foods, and you want to put all of that in one confined location, or maybe a few confined location in the bin. You don't want to spread it all over the bin, because when it is close together, it's going to be producing more heat. But at the same time, you don't want it all over the bin, because what you want to do is to have areas in the bin that is warm enough for your worms to gather in that location. You don't want the entire bin to get so hot that your worms may start to die off and they don't have any way to escape. So in confined locations in the bin, depending on the size bin, you might have more than one location. Then you put your bulk of food scraps there. That will help to keep your worms warm. Now, the fifth thing that you can do to ensure that your worms are warm in the cold winter is to use a heat mat underneath your bin. Now, if you're someone like me who does commercial worm farming, that might not be an option, because if you have a lot of bin, that would be a lot of heat mat that you would have to go and purchase, which is not really practical. So in that case, if you're like me with a lot of worm bins, then you will want to turn on an additional heater in your worm farm area to keep that region warm. And I would recommend doing this only for those excessively cold times and not on a continuous basis, because naturally heating can be super expensive. So use a heat mat where possible, or if not, you use a heater, but make sure that you only do it in extreme conditions where you know that your worms will not survive if you don't do so. If you like my channel, please subscribe and turn on your notification for more updates like these. Thank you so much for watching and have yourself a wonderful day. Yeah man, a time for grow.